Hello and welcome. My name is David Ridgway and this is Kirklees Local Television's Weekly Wind-Up, where we bring you a digest of the weekly news. We aim to be informative, amusing, interesting and provocative. This week we'll be discussing three special topics. To help me with these weighty topics, my guests are Paul Peart from Lifeline, welcome.
Morning.
Philip Stevens, welcome.
Hello.
And my old friend Kyle Warwick, a local resident from Marsden and one of my colleagues. Welcome to you all. Well, we always want feedback from you. The Weekly Wind-Up can be contacted by email on info@kirkleeslocaltv.com, and you can search on Twitter at Weekly Wind-Up. And so to our first topic. Is marijuana dangerous? And if so, how high is that danger to us compared with tobacco? Paul?
Well, just so that I sort of like to set my stance out there is that
Sure.
I work for the local drug and alcohol agency.
Yep.
So as the local drug and alcohol agency, what we understand in terms of substances, which marijuana is one of those substances viewed as being illegal out there in the community, is that we will work with people that's got some sort of dependency. So for some people, marijuana is dangerous, for others it may not be. So we take it on merit as people coming into our service and look at working with individuals around their substance use and the effects that it has on them as an individual.
Does that give a sort of a parallel with alcohol, that for some people it can be really dangerous and others it can be just a social drink?
Again, you see that out in the community. Some people can go out, manage their alcohol use brilliantly, have no issues, get up, continue to work. With others, massive effects on their life. So yeah, you can send it down the same route and paralyse it with alcohol use.
Well, I do know the work that Lifeline does, and I have to say that I am a big fan of Lifeline. I think they do exceptionally good work in the community. But you've been very political, Paul, because you've not answered the question. How high is the danger of marijuana compared with tobacco?
Again, you're saying that I'm being political.
Well, only because you didn't answer the question.
But it's a difficult question to answer because that depends on individuals and how that affects an individual. So for some people, highly dangerous. You know, someone who may have mental health issues, it may be highly dangerous for them to get involved in marijuana. For others, it's not as dangerous. So although you say I'm being political, it's the best answer that I can give you at this stage.
I understand that. Now, tobacco and alcohol are both licensed, and they're available for purchase through what I'll laughingly call licensed premises. I've never actually seen difficulties in purchasing either alcohol or tobacco, except in Sainsbury's, when I was asked to, only 2 or 3 weeks ago, asked to prove my age. But there we go. Would a similar approach for the sale of drugs be acceptable for the procurement and distribution of recreational drugs? What do you think, Philip?
To a degree, I think legalising it would be a good stance to take, because it would take the people that's distributing it out of circulation. It put the parents at ease because their children are being introduced to it at an early age without their knowledge, and therefore them becoming distributors themselves. That's one issue. And the other one is where they're going out to feed to fund the habit. So legalising it, to my distinction, would be to get it legalised, then the people out there, they can't actually make any profit out of it, because that's all it's all about at the moment, profit. And they're not bothered about what effect it has on society itself. It's the parents and families that actually bear the brunt.
So legalising it or decriminalising it and controlling it?
Yes, that's the stance I would take, given the powers, because then you've got control over it and people aren't putting people
They've
at
tried.
risk.
They've tried this in Holland, and they are now saying that it's not worked very well.
It's not working.
Okay, so I'd say that the system in Holland is one of toleration rather than one of legalisation. The system isn't that it is legal for you to possess or produce marijuana. The system is that it's tolerated for people to possess small amounts of marijuana or to produce small amounts of marijuana for themselves. So the big producers of marijuana going into the Holland system are criminals. So the money still there is not going back into the public coffers. The money is going into criminal pockets, and really it's not a system that is controlled in any way by Holland's government. It can't be controlled because it's still basically a criminal element that is involved in the production, really.
Well, I didn't actually know that. I thought this was a decriminalised system, but from what you're now saying, I can see exactly why the system hasn't worked. Because if there's no government control, and indeed the benefit of taxation coming in, because the benefit of the taxation coming in, of course, is that the money taken in by the government can be utilised to assist those people who want to get clean.
Yeah, I agree. There's also, just to add on...
It's a balance, isn't it?
It is. Just to add on to the issue that you're talking about there in Holland as well, is that they also talk about it being for locals, and that locals are supposed to use the cafes and all of that, so they try to have some sort of control.
Yeah, but isn't the Dutch word local, doesn't it have the same meaning as tourist?
Well, that's what it is. That's what it is. There's so many people that I know that leave these shores to go over there because they think it's a free-for-all.
Well, I want to ask now, has the government still got a role to play in legislating to control illegal drugs, or have the police and the courts basically lost the battle? Paul?
I think the governments, they do a decent job in terms of classifying substances. So, and the finance at the moment is with the government in terms of the research that is done into the harms and the dangers, which is what supports the classification of a particular substance. So they have a massive role to play in terms of where we go down this route in terms of whether cannabis should be legalised or should not be legalised. I think they still have a big part to play.
I would come in on that and say that they do have a big part to play going forward in terms of if they do choose to legalise, then they can legislate for control factors on it. I think at the moment, the criminalisation of all illegal substances, as controversial as this may sound, is borderline negligent on the basis of a central government. It is to say that we are going to put extremely moralistic decisions into the hands of amoral people. It means that substances are not what they say they are. It means that most substances out there now are cut. Marijuana, exactly the same. Extreme fertilisers. The strength of the substances has gone through the roof. You've got lots of money that could be going back into taxes, and that's something that...
Well, can I just pick you up on that, Carl, if I might, and perhaps bring in Philip. Could a system of decriminalisation remove the racketeering and the vast profits if such drugs were made available in a controlled manner? And if so, would the quality of such products be better controlled and thereby made safer?
I wouldn't say you get control totally, but a high percentage of it would be controlled, because you're always going to get some that filters through, but that would be an idea to take that stance.
Well, thank you very much to all our panellists for a fascinating conversation. Not enough time to cover it all in detail. We'll take a break there, and you can add to this debate by contacting us on email at info@kirkleeslocaltv.com and by searching on Twitter at KirkleesLocalTV. Thank you very much. Welcome back. I recently saw a comic video clip of John Oliver concerning FIFA and the World Cup. He is a presenter on Last Week Tonight. Although amusing, he has thrown up a number of interesting questions. Now I know, Paul, because you told me earlier that you don't know anything about football and that you're a Man City fan. There you go. Why are there so many riots in Brazil opposed to the World Cup being held there?
Again, the billions and billions of pounds that's been ploughed into the World Cup kind of makes, in a way, a mockery of the people that's really struggling in the country. And that's the reasons why there's a lot of riots that's taken place. Now, in theory, the way it's supposed to work, that amount of money ploughed into the World Cup should generate that amount of funding that goes back into the government system, which then will support a number of individuals that are struggling within the system, within the communities. Yeah. And maybe there's a number of people that can't see that now, or maybe there's a number of people that don't believe that now, or maybe generally they believe that there's some sort of corruption high up within the system. Well, I'm just saying what they believe.
We might have a couple of questions on that. For example, the new stadium in Manaus, which I gather was the host for the England party. Do you know how many games this new stadium in Manaus will have in the World Cup?
It's not very many. It's around 4 or 5 at the moment.
4. Yeah. And how much does it cost to build it?
$300 million.
$270 million. It's so remote that all the building materials were shipped from Portugal over the Atlantic and up the Amazon. There is no team to use that stadium after the World Cup is over. Is this not an outrageous waste of money? Philip?
Yes, I think it is. They're not looking at the big picture really, because your people and your community should come first before the money, because it's them that will generate money in time, given the facilities which they're being denied for a game of football.
Okay.
That's my view on that.
Well, now we've had Paul's comments on the lack of benefit coming to the community, and you talked about the taxation there. We must then ask, who benefits from the World Cup? Will Brazil benefit, or will FIFA benefit? This multi-million organisation doesn't even pay any taxes. Do you know how much the estimate of lost taxation in Brazil will be for the World Cup? $250 million. So FIFA are accused of riding roughshod over host countries' laws. Now, there were massive problems in Brazil 10 plus years ago with drink, not drugs, but drink at football games, with riots going on and battles in the streets and so on. So Brazil banned the sale of all beer at football matches. And by banning it, they then controlled it. But FIFA come along and say, our biggest sponsor is Budweiser. We will not compromise on this matter. It is not for negotiation. Budweiser will be sold at all stadiums during the World Cup. Have they got the right to do that over local nations' laws?
Yes. In short, yes, they have.
Who's given it to them?
They organise the World Cup, they put the World Cup together, they organise the people to sponsor and fund the World Cup, therefore they have the right to say who sponsors and what goes on within the stadiums whilst the World Cup is on. I think the forcing of sale of alcohol at a World Cup is quite minimal compared to some of the things that go on behind the doors at FIFA. I think it's been compared to a mafia family. Sepp Blatter's been compared to Don Corleone, which is unfair on Don Corleone, because Sepp Blatter doesn't have half of the subtlety that Don Corleone has. I'm glad you said that, not me. Sepp Blatter is one of the most unbelievable characters on the world stage. It's just, he comes out with comments that you look at on face value, suggesting that Lord Triesman was racist for suggesting that there was bribery and corruption involved in the bids for the 2022 World Cup.
Correct.
Is a disgusting move. It's ridiculous. Nobody can say that is
two people have already resigned.
Sepp Blatter is suggesting that is Lord Triesman suggesting a problem with the Qatari bid or the Qatari people. That is ridiculous. It's a problem within FIFA. It is a common knowledge.
How do we control that?
How do we control that? Change at the top, but you can't make.
How do we control that?
At the top. You've got to do it structurally through the FA, through UEFA. This is why it's a good thing that now the FA is not a lone voice against Sepp Blatter. 5-10 years ago, we were seen as the mourners on the world stage. Here they come again, the English FA, complaining about World Cups, complaining about not getting their way, complaining about the fact that referees give bookings to Peter Crouch every time he jumps for an header. It's
Stop ranting down the far end.
Honestly, it's something that I feel that passionately about, and yeah, I might get nonsensical at times, but
No,
it's just a ridiculous state of affairs.
Well, you've raised the question of bribery, especially over the host country for 2022, and I understand that I've been told that FIFA is supposed to be non-profit. Do you know how much FIFA holds in reserve?
Not at the top of my head, but I could imagine it's a vast amount of money.
Well, what's vast to you?
Oh, you're talking in billions.
It is $1 billion. This whole video clip finished on a comparison between FIFA and a religion. Is this not bizarre?
I truly believe that you can totally compare the fervent belief of football fans to that of religious people, and I totally agree that there are people out there more than willing to take advantage of that desire to watch their club, to watch their country, to go to another country. There was a bloke in the stands at the England game the other night against Costa Rica that had a sign up saying £2,000 for flights, £2,000 for accommodation, £1,200 for soaking up the atmosphere, arriving after England had been eliminated, priceless. That is the fervent belief. It doesn't matter that everybody knew we weren't going to win the World Cup. There were still 6,500 people, English people, in that stadium the other night, singing their hearts out. And there will always be institutions like the Premier League and FIFA willing to sap every single penny out of them without putting any money back into it.
To whose benefit?
But
to their own benefit.
Yeah.
It is.
I'm sorry, Paul, go on.
It is to their benefit, yeah. But for me, countries like Brazil have got to take advantage of that as well, because in terms of the amount of tourism that's coming in, the amount of money that you've just talked about that this gentleman's just spent, yeah, that goes back into Brazil, yeah. And there'll be many other thousands and thousands of people that would have spent that same money. So maybe, and I'm going to be honest, at times we've got to ask about the infrastructures of the countries that are accepting it. When Brazil put their bid in for to host the World Cup, they would have been told at that time that, you know what, you don't have alcohol in the stadiums, Budweiser's coming in, that's part of it. So it's how those countries, yeah, take advantage of that. You have got those big people up there like the Sepp Blatters and the rest of it. Maybe countries like Brazil just need to understand how they take advantage of it. That's how I'd like to see
Totally
it.
agree.
Well, I want to move on to our last topic now, and that is, what is Britishness? So, Philip, what's Britishness to you?
This might sound a bit controversial to a lot of people that's here, but how do you determine Britishness when we're all interracially mixed from time gone by? The Queen herself is part German, so how does she determine she's British?
So am I.
Exactly, so where does Britishness come from? Who determines who's British?
Well, we all do, I guess. Well, let me ask you this. Should we expect our mums and dads to instill a greater love of our country into us, or should we leave that to the schools?
I think it's down to parenting myself, because most of the teachers and the hierarchy in that sector, they're told what to teach the children of today.
I don't think you teach a sense of belonging, which a sense of Britishness essentially is the idea of Britishness for people to feel that is to feel belonging to Britain. You don't teach an idea of belonging to Britain. People find their own niches of what goes on within that society, and not one person cannot define what that is.
Okay.
That one person can come at it from their own point of view,
Yeah.
but they can't come at it from everybody's point of
Well,
view.
if everybody's point of view was the same, it'd be a bit of a dull world, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And now, Paul, I'll leave this last one to you. Have we been let down in some way, and have attitudes changed And is this to be welcomed or deplored?
That sort
of stuff.
Yeah, I kind of struggle with it in terms of Britishness and what is that criteria, what does it mean? So are you saying part of that criteria is that we should play the national anthem at the
No, I'm just
start?
throwing that into the
And
table as an example.
That's what I struggle with in terms
Okay.
of what is Britishness.
What do you think Britishness is?
I would even take that word away. I'm just me, I'm just Paul, I'm just living in this country and I'm just getting on with
like
what
that.
I'm getting on with. I'm living within the laws of the land.
Excellent.
I try not to break the laws, that type of stuff. I'm pretty respectful. I'm just me, I'm just Paul, I'm just a black man living in England.
I like that.
Being neutral in
Would we all go with that? I think there's one word which sums up things which you've all said, and none of you have used this word, and I've not used it, and that is that Britishness is a demonstration of tolerance. Tolerance within ourselves and tolerance to other people.
I agree with
I
that.
can agree with that, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much indeed to all of our panellists this week.
It's a pleasure, David.
We've had a fascinating exchange of views and we hope that you will add your comments. You can always contact us on email at info@kirkleeslocaltv.com and search for us on Twitter at kirkleeslocaltv. I beg your pardon, at Weekly Winder. Thank you. See you next week.